Hello everyone and welcome to the third round of the FSR Stockcar Pro Cup series here in the autumn of 2022. We've already had two races at the wonderful Road Atlanta and then Gateway last week as well. And as the season progresses, we are getting to some different sort of styles of tracks. We've had the road course, we've had the short oval, and today, for the first time this season, we come to the Speedway here at the Apple Valley Speedway in California, USA, for a 88-lap race. Myself, Cameron Rodger, and Zach Sweeney taking you through the action as ever, with Felix van Delft behind doing the cameras today. And Zach, we had a very chaotic round last week at Gateway, and we're probably expecting a little bit more than that. But just one race today, 88 laps, an hour or so of driving. It's certainly going to be some fast and furious action.
Oh, definitely so. I mean, last week at Gateway, we saw, Road Atlanta set the scene, but then we went to Gateway and it was just carnage and chaos. We had brilliant racing all the way down to sort of the dying moments of the race. We had sort of that 10-15 lap dash after the final caution as well. It really, really was so densely packed. And that was a shorter oval. We now come to California for 88 laps. So yeah, as you say, only one race long. We don't have the feature and the sprint, but it's still a very long time to be just going around technically just in a circle, but still a lot more than that, because you've got so much to focus on, and you can't exactly go in with the sprint mentality of, oh yeah, I'm just going to take these tires to the end and go all out and then try and do something else in the feature. You have to go in with sort of an endurance mindset to try and slug it out and be a bit more conservative, but also you can't afford to be all nice and a bit of a pushover, really.
Absolutely. It's going to be some fierce racing because as much as the race is, of course, 88 laps, so there's plenty of action and a 2-mile oval as well, so 175 miles around here. But the laps do go quickly, and as we saw last week as well, the cautions are so important to get them right. You just have to keep on cycling yourself to the front. So the race is a constant battle of trying to overtake and then drop back a little bit when there's a caution and then get back to the front. It's certainly a difficult style of racing, really, to win, and sometimes a bit of luck is needed.
Yeah, I mean, that's always going to be the case when it comes to stock cars. Not always is the fastest driver going to be victorious, because we saw how quickly it could change. I mean, in the sprint race, we saw Ercan, Valente and Skovron, your top three. And Skovron was really sort of nowhere deserving of a podium for the majority of that race. But then there was that last lap sort of skirmish, and he managed to find himself, just catapult himself onto that podium. We were taken aback a little bit. We were like, hang about, how has he been able to do this? And then it was because he was just able to dart his way through, keep his nose clean, and just remain consistent in those dying moments where it really counted. Because in reality, moves don't really matter much until those final few moments, and Damien Skovron was there ready to pick up the pieces. And again, that is just the unpredictability that comes with stock car series.
Yeah, and we saw, unfortunately, some last lap incidents here and there, which of course changed the end result. But here's how they stand after the first 4 races, because of course the second race at Road Atlanta unfortunately was red flagged, and no points will be given from that one. So only 3 races have counted, and it's Arda Ercan there for TX3 leading the way, but only 3 points back is Jake Dennehan, who obviously started the season so well in the sprint race at Road Atlanta. But then the surprise act of Carlos Martin came in as a reserve and is already up to joint third in the championship with Fabian Ballet, who we know is an oval specialist in the next couple of races. So Zach is certainly looking pretty close at the front, but especially those two of Ercan and Dennehan, they're starting to get a little bit of a gap at the front there.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a gap of, around 9 points between Martin and Dennehan. But, when you look at their seasons of Dennehan and Ercan, they've been really, really consistent, especially Dennehan. I mean, last time out, he qualified P21 after what was a pretty, uncharacteristic qualifying from him. But then over the 2 races, he was able to finish P5 at the end of the feature, which, is really good damage limitation. He was able to maximize his points all and then bring it home. I mean, he's second in the championship, and of the 3 races that we've properly managed to run, he's not won any of them. And knowing that he's in a championship hunt without winning a race yet just goes to show the level of consistency he has.
Indeed. And now we get into the qualifying session, and this is going to be the first time, of course, where we are going to start seeing the laps come in. This is a 3-lap consecutive run qualifying. So it is the average of the 3 laps. So it's not just about your fastest lap. It is about the average over the course of the run. They'll be going out in groups of about 5 or 6, although due to the maths, this first group only has a couple of drivers in it, but you will see as we get going, there'll be more and more drivers come out, and it is in reverse championship order. So the later we get into the session and the later groups, the big names will start to come out. And we just obviously need to work out exactly what the mile per hour is that they're going to be looking for. It looks like it's 187 so far. Jean-Michel Garnier, they're going to 188 actually on that second lap, so improving over the course of the run. And Zach, this is something we may not always see, because sometimes you start to slow down as the tyres start to wear throughout the run.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 3 laps and you're pushing them to their absolute limits. Of course, they're going to start to heat up. They're going to start to slide a little bit, and that is going to hamper your overall pace. Of course, it's not like your typical qualifying session. You're not going there to have a really, really quick 1-lap run. You've got to have 3 consecutive on the bounce. You've got to keep your speed up, and that is easier said than done. Of course, they've got to do 88 laps in a row in the race, but they're not pushing to that absolute limit over those 88 laps. And it is pretty difficult because it's so easy to push it so hard on the opening first 2 laps and then slide a little bit on your third and then mess it up. But for Garnier, he's gone quick on each of his laps. Lap 1 was 187, lap 2 188, lap 3 189. So he's sort of mastered that sweet zone of being able to use the tyres to their full potential and still have some left for that final lap.
And that is where the oval specialists come into it, especially around here. You don't have to sort of brake or lift off much for the corners, but you can't take it completely flat out, which means there is a lot of driver skill coming into it to take the right line, to get back on the throttle at the right time, to make sure that you're really using the potential of that right side tyre. And that is, of course, the important one around these tracks as you start turning left all the time. It is the outside tyre, the right tyres that will start to dig in, and especially that rear right, when you're starting to slide it, you're starting to put all the pressure on it. That is the one that you're going to have to look out for. As Patrick Hanko there on his first lap is already getting up into the 89s, but then McDuff goes to a 190 on his first lap, and that is interesting if he can keep that one going. He's obviously had a good outlap there, got up to speed quickly, and the Americans showing what they're designed to do out on the ovals.
Well, it is his home turf. He wouldn't want to be embarrassed by some of the Europeans. That certainly would not be good for his pride and his ego. As Amphiditis as well up there, or into P3. Elliott as well. We saw some pretty decent laps actually last time out from himself. But yeah, again, it is one good thing to have one good lap. You've got to keep it up, keep it going, and keep that average up. You can see there McDuff, his second lap 191.8. That already is 3 miles an hour quicker than our provisional of Garnier so far. So McDuff definitely coming out of the block swinging.
He certainly is, as Hanko there goes to the top on a 89.7. So yeah, over a mile an hour quicker than Garnier. But of course, as we know, everyone is just all going to get quicker and quicker as the championship contenders come into this. Ampazidis there goes to front. He had an amazing race last year and the Indy Pro Series as a reserve around this very track, so certainly knows it. And Ryan Elliott, who was towards the front in qualifying last week, only just 0.06 behind, so certainly looking. But of course, as we're expecting, Roy McDuff there goes to the front in a 191, so 1.5 miles an hour quicker, although his teammate then comes in just 1 mile shy. So yeah, McDuff certainly showing the speed in these first couple of groups.
I mean, we still have a long way to go in terms of drivers. Really good attendance for this round. Here's Tucson now out on his run, but there's no track evolution, so the track doesn't get better over the course of the group. So if McDuff is competitive, his speed is competitive, he's not going to have, the likes of Yanis Simičić, who is going to be later on. They're not going to have any better of a circuit. They're going to have to, do the hard work themselves. So if McDuff in these early groups, the drivers you wouldn't maybe expect to retain the positions that they sort of get early on. Yeah, I mean, definitely do not count out McDuff for a good run, especially if he knows his way around an oval and is good at qualifying. Because, yeah, if you're a specialist at something, it doesn't matter where you are placed in qualifying. There's no track evolution. You're in the same boat as everyone else. He certainly has a really good shot at this.
Yeah, he does, and someone else who we know can be good around the ovals is Victor Ivanov, already doing a 90.7 on that first lap, which is good. Let's see if the trend goes are going quicker on that second lap. Can he do so? Yes, he can. So momentum is increasing into the 91s, but even those 2 laps together aren't enough to get towards the front, but at least getting yourself towards the top 5, top 10, that is where you want to be on a big 40-car field heading towards the first couple of laps here at the Apple Valley Speedway. As we get Matthias Harvig there go up into 6th place as well on his run. We got Matt Tucson as well, also doing their laps in this stint. But it's Victor Ivanov as he comes around the final corners of 3 and 4 to get the run. That is a very important one because you want to stay so close through the sort of tri-oval section of the track. Can he get himself up? Where is he going to jump to? 2nd place. Nice. It's going to be just 0.3 of a mile an hour behind.
Yeah, really not much in it at all. I mean, usually we'd say 0.3 of a second is quite a substantial gap, but it's not. It's miles an hour. You think of how quick these stock cars can accelerate, when they're topping out at sort of 190, how little difference 0.3 of a mile an hour will make. But it is so far the difference between first and second so far in qualifying. It's so marginal. And, if you looked at it from the naked eye, McDuff and Ivanov's lap probably didn't look too much different. They probably did, near enough that's the same thing throughout the whole laps, but it was just that small thing, getting that slightly better run out coming out of, whatever corner it is throughout the lap, that McDuff has been able to set the standard and be just a little bit quicker. And the same with Tucson and Jürgen van Bergen. They're only 1 mile an hour average behind. There honestly is absolutely nothing in it.
Yeah, it is literally coming down to thousandths of a second between some of these people. But look at someone coming here. Yanis Simičić, leading the championship after round 1, didn't show up last week to Gateway because he was down in Monaco doing some cool eSports stuff down there in the World Cup. But he's now back to try and see what he can do. Number 17 machine. And his first lap is the purple. It is a 91.6 on that first lap. And we know normally you can try and improve on this second lap. And that is already 0.3 of a mile an hour faster than McDuff coming towards the line to finish his second lap. Where is he going to jump himself up to? A 91.5 again. This is a good run from Simičić.
It really is, and he doesn't have the oval experience, at least so far this season, that everyone else has. He missed Gateway, and he's jumped into California, and he is setting some really, really quick times. It's awesome to see how good of a driver Jone Simoncic is to just jump in and already be a very, very high standard. He's now rounding off what is going to be his final run in this session, and we're just going to have to see if it's going to be up there, because so far it is telling that it is going to be that case. But between lap 1 and lap 2 there was a 0.1 mile an hour shift. Could we see a bit more of a drop across the line? Is it going to be well, no, it's pole, and he went a 0.3 of a mile an hour quicker than lap 2. So Jone Simoncic, really, really good to run there.
Yeah, that was awesome to see. He slowed down a bit on lap 2, so I thought maybe that momentum was just being lost, but no, he managed to keep that going as he went into his third lap there, and that is a great one, as we also saw Stockcar getting up into fourth place as well on that one. So let's get to the next group to see who we've got out there. We've got Carlos Martin as well to come, of course, who had a very good run next time around. He'll be coming out very shortly, but we've got Zoltschutz, we've got Danny van der Neet coming out as well, and we've got Riboli and Morville also finishing their laps from the previous one as well, but they go to 14th and 15th place. Here is Zoltschutz as he does a 90.4 on that first lap. So he is looking to be somewhere around 8th or 9th position as it stands. But as we know, sometimes you can improve as the laps go on. But definitely, Zach, it shows a lot of people, they're staying fairly consistent, though, with the laps around here.
Yeah, and that is good for sure for when it comes to the race. You've got to do 88 laps in a row, so remaining consistent is going to be great. And those that aren't, it's going to definitely be those that bring out the cautions. We saw a fair few of them at Gateway, and it does really change up the momentum of the race. Michi Hoyer so far has had a pretty appalling first lap to his run, really not been able to get underway as best he can. You can see there a bit better lap 2, but over the course of an average, that 185 is really going to tarnish this run.
Yes, certainly is. That is obviously dropping down to a level that you can't really get back for in a 3-lap run. You can't afford to have a bad lap, really, because just a 0.1, 0.2 here or there is going to be bad enough, let alone multiple mile an hours. As we got Danny van der Neet here for Tribute Racing, the number 8, coming towards the line. Where's he going to set himself on that second lap? A 91.7, massive improvement for Danny on that second lap. That is looking to get himself up towards the top 3 area to his teammate Victor Ivanov. We'll have to see how he finishes his lap, as Harry Smith has got a DQ, I saw as we came around there. Zoltschutz on his third lap, eventually getting up into 4th place, so managing to keep that one going. But I'll have to see where Danny van der Neet is going to go, because that was a big second lap.
Yeah, really, really well done, and up there, but again, it's decided by the average, so we will have to wait and see if his lap 3 is going to be any better. The dash to the line now for van der Neet. He is a very, very accomplished driver. What can he do? It's only P4, but still up there with his teammate Ivanov, 3 and 4 at the moment. A respectable run, considering we've got Jone Simoncic and Roy McDuff up there 1st and 2nd. To be in 4th place, it's definitely nothing to shy away from.
Yeah, it certainly isn't, as we have Jan Woznitzer now coming around. He had a very good comeback at the previous race in Gateway. He did the pit stop to perfection in the feature race, had fresher tyres than a lot of people, and made so much ground, but unfortunately couldn't get past Carlos Martin towards the end of the lap on that occasion. He had a massive crash coming into this corner. He hit that bit of the wall on the right-hand side last year in the Indy Pro Series. Let's hope that doesn't happen this time around, as the Netrex Grand Prix driver does a 90.7 on that first lap. What is he going to do on this second lap? It seems like a 9.7 is pretty average for that first lap, but it's of course the second lap that is going to count. He's got into the 91s though, Zach.
He has, and now it all comes down to this final run. For Woznitzer, it wasn't really qualifying that was his strong suit last time out at Gateway, and I think that's sort of carried in with him today at California. And yeah, it definitely was the race that saw him shoot up, as you say, up in a P2. He definitely had a shot at winning, but I think between himself and Carlos Martin just didn't want to risk anything too much. This is Thomas Vack. P24 at the moment, up to P8, so not at all a bad run over the course of his 3 laps, 190.5 average, so not looking too bad. We're back to Jan Woznitzer, and on his run to the line, where's it going to put him? Up to P3. So his lap 1, pretty average. His lap 2, a little bit better, but his lap 3 really managed to get him up there and up onto the second row of the grid.
Yeah, kept that pace going. Great job from the NetRx driver. He's going to be happy with that because he doesn't have any teammates around him. But of course, we are still waiting for a couple of them, such as I believe Jake Dennehan, still to come out. But here is Carlos Martin in that very bright livery. He has moved to Iris for this race. He was reserved for, I think it was NetRx's last race, but he was so happy. If you heard in the interview, he was basically asking for a seat, a full-time seat, and he has obviously found one because he's got himself up there into a seat. He's got himself on the grid, and that is the important point there. But slightly slow first up though, 90.1.
Yeah, not the best way to kick off his run, and again, it is recoverable, but when it's, not like a normal lap, you are pretty much flat out for the majority of it. If you lose even the slightest bit of momentum, that is just going to tarnish you all the way around the lap. It's hard to just send it into a corner a bit more and gain time back that way, because when you're topping out pretty much the entire lap, you can't really do that. You have to start well and then carry that through the entirety of your run. So we'll see what Martin can do, but to jump in and do 2 races and be up there in 3rd place in the standings, he definitely shows that he deserves it.
He certainly does, and someone who we know is a bit of an oval specialist, did well last time out, maybe not with the race results, but certainly had the potential. He had a great run here last season as well, Fabian Ballet, and he's now done a 91.8 in that 2nd lap and a 0.1 in the 1st. This could be a great run as Damien Scoffron jumps up into 3rd place. That's a burst 1.3 as it stands, and can Ballet get up there and join them up towards the 191's average? That is certainly going to be what he wants. Jake Dennehan there down in 15th place, and Ballet up to 2nd, 0.2 of a mile an hour shy of Yanni Simincic. Nice run there. We've got Martin in 8th and Ercan down in 9th. Ercan, your championship leader, in 9th place.
Yeah, not really got the best of runs, but we'll have to see what Jake Dennehan can do on his run. But yeah, great job there from Fabian Barley. Same to Roy McDuff, our sort of our 2 oval specialists, but Barley certainly in qualifying is fantastic, and he's proven that again today. Between himself and McDuff, it's only 0.02 of a mile an hour, only 0.2 of a mile an hour back to Yanni Simincic. So look out for Barley in the race. He did get off initially quite well in the sprint at Gateway, but after the caution, it did sort of just fall away from him. Unfortunately, he was only able to salvage P9 and P8 by the end of it, but definitely is one to look out for if it goes his way, and he can get some clear air, settle into a good rhythm. He definitely could give Simincic a run all the way.
Yes, he certainly could. But of course, Jake Dennehan, where did he end up? 17th place he ended up as well. So he's one to look out for to come back. Ercan in 9th. There's certainly some big potential championship implications that are coming for these drivers. But that is qualifying ended here at Apple Valley. And soon, of course, the drivers will be going to the grid. But while they sort that out, we'll get a quick word from our sponsor.
World Championship is done. What a race it's been!
And welcome back to the California 175 in the Stock Car Pro Cup Series. We just had qualifying, and it looks like it's going to be a very tight race. Of course, 88 laps to come. There's loads of things that can happen. We can have cautions, we can have all sorts of things happening, crashes. Let's see how this one is going to work out. Zach Sweeney alongside myself, Cameron Rodger, Felix van Delft in the cameras, and Zach, that was certainly a thrilling qualifying session. It's so close out there, it's really hard to predict who's going to come out on top in the race.
It's always hard to predict who's going to come out on top, but we've got some big names up there. Jerne Simičić taking pole, Fabian Barlien behind him, Roy McDuff, I think Damien Skovron in P4, if memory serves me correctly, not entirely sure, but we've got 4 very, very quick drivers right to the sharp end of the grid. We've got 88 laps of racing action. Definitely a couple of cautions to go with it along the way. And yeah, I really, really am looking forward to this, because like Gateway, you go into it really not knowing who's going to come out on top, because it doesn't matter if Simičić took pole. Slipstream, draft, all the way around this circuit means that anything can happen.
Yeah, it certainly can. I'm really interested to see how this one is going to go, because we saw even in a 68 lap race last time with the way that it worked out, a lot of things happened. We've also got another 20 laps from what we had last time, plus obviously being a longer track and things like that, a lot faster. Crashes can happen a lot more easily. I'm really, just interested to see how this one is going to work out, how the drivers are going to cope with it, and how they are really going to play it out. Because, Zach, we know from what we've seen before, a lot of this style of racing is just keeping it clean, really, keeping yourself in a nice position to attack towards the end. But as we know, some drivers, they like to just get to the front as quickly as possible.
It's a completely different mentality when it comes to over racing. I said it last week and I'll say it again this time. It's so easy to fall into that complacent mindset of, well, they're turning left. They're not doing anything, are they? They're not racing. They're just putting their foot down and turning. Yes, they are, but also they are going through a million different things at once. Even just to wrestle the car around the oval is hard enough in of itself. To follow a line lap after lap after lap and not dip a tyre onto the apron on the inside is tough, because as soon as you do that, I can say from experience, you're not going to come out facing the right way 9 times out of 10. It's very difficult to correct. You've got a pack of 40 cars all around you, bumper to bumper, pretty much for the entire lap. You've got to think about your fuel, your tyres, your strategy, and also being able to avoid crashes. You've got to be able to react to it quite quickly, and also just have an element of luck, because it doesn't matter who you are, how quick your reactions are. It doesn't matter if you're Spider-Man, to be honest. If there's a crash in front of you, it's going to be difficult to try and avoid it, but you've got to do your best. You've got to try and have that element of luck and just get through unscathed, because you've got to be in it to win it.
Indeed, and I think that's really the biggest factor. If we look back, I'm trying to remember now if it was season 1 or 2 of Indy Pro, but one of the seasons, it must be season 1 actually, Phil Kraus for HM Engineering, he was in the fence at one point through turn 1, and he managed to get back to the pits, repair the car, and then due to cautions he got basically able to unlap himself, got back on the lead lap, and then got himself to the front again and ended up winning the race. So it just shows you, even if you have one crash, with everything that can happen on oval, it is a bit of a lottery in some ways, so there's definitely a luck element, but for sure, if you have the speed, if you can get yourself towards the front, that's really what's going to happen. We also saw it last year. I believe it was Jürgen Kasdorp who won last year in season 2 of the Indy Pro Series, but it was actually I think Peter Burlak and Jerne Simičić, they got caught up in a crash towards the end of the race, but they also got back up towards the top 10. So it's certainly possible, and you just have to keep your hopes up. And even if you go a lap or 2 down because of damage repair, just know if you stay in the race, if you keep going, you will be able to get yourself some points at the end.
Yeah, as I say, you've got to be in it to win it. You can't just give up on lap 1. There's 88 laps to go. You keep pushing through. You see how it plays out. Because as you say, with cautions, quite generous in the wave round of letting lap cars get their lap back and then join at the back of the field. And then once you're back onto the lead lap, you're not out of it. By any stretch of the imagination. As you say, you can come through the field, cautions, you can pick your way through one by one. If there's a massive crash involving 5 cars, boom, 5 easy places to make up again. So yeah, honestly, even if your favorite driver crashes out on lap 1, do not switch off, because they might pull a Phil Kraus.
They might certainly do that. The one, actually, we haven't quite spoken about it yet, Zach, but one thing to think about is also the strategy. So in terms of on your own, obviously Slipstream can change the these things a little bit. But on your own, you'll be seeing about 28 laps maximum per stint. So we're looking at a minimum of a 2-stop strategy as well around here, and maybe even a 3-stop, depending on how this works out. But of course, it depends when the cautions come out. It depends how the tyres are. We saw in Gateway, especially, just how much the new tyres can really be a huge advantage around here. So those drivers staying out, maybe that's not going to work. We did see last week as well, Loic Meunier, he stayed at the front, tried to make it work, but in the end, he just cycled back to the back of the field and then couldn't come through again.
Yeah, and strategy is going to be a big thing. If they go by that 28 lap strategy, I have just typed it into the calculator, it will be 3.1 pit stops. So yeah, it's going to be very marginal. And with cautions and things like that, the ability to save some fuel, get a free pit stop, all these things, it's not going to be plain sailing what's going to be the quote-unquote optimal strategy, because if you're second, third, fourth place in a train, you can afford to save a lot more fuel than the person leading the way. And then when it comes to the pit stops, you can maybe do less pit stops, or you can have a short pit stop because you've already got more you've got more fuel in reserve to then just top it back up, and it'll take less time to do so. So yeah, anyone can do something with a strategy like we saw with Vosnitsa last time. Gateway in the feature managed to get himself in a P2. Tyres as well, do you take all four? Do you just take one side of two? All of those things are going to come into factor, and I think we're going to see a multitude of different strategies, and honestly, any of them really could work.
Yeah, anything can certainly work, and it looks like we are getting the drivers onto the grid now for the California 175, which is great to see. There will be following Anthony Nitzbon in the safety car for the first lap before we go green. So it'll be 87 laps of racing. We do have a maximum time as well. Of 1 hour and 40 minutes, so 100 minutes for the race. Should we get loads of cautions, but hopefully we do not, because of course we want to see some nice green flag action. And then when of course we get to the grid, we'll then be able to run you through who is going to be coming up the way, because of course the qualifying session a few moments ago was the one. Here is your grid for today. Well, Yanni Simoncic and Fabian Ballet on that front row, with Ron McDuff following in behind them. Of course, Anthony Nitzbon there driving the safety car from the pole position. And on to the next row, we've got Damian Skovron, so Burst doing a good job at the front there with Jan Vosnitsa, and then two tribute cars of Ivanov and Van der Neet, the 6th and the 8th, going from that 7th and 8th position. Carlos Martin then and Erchan, two of the top drivers really, they're up inside the top 10, with Zoltschuk and Steneker rounding out the top 12. Steneker and Acker driver, the second tier driver, but up in the Pro Series for this one. Howard and Vac follow with Mazidis and Matt Tewson there. Matt Tewson reserving once again for ground effect and doing a bit better up inside top 16. Struggled a bit in Gateway last week. Jurgen van Bergen and Jake Denhan there. Denhan all the way down in 18th place. That's a bit of a disappointment for him. And then Vaya and Savalev going for the top 20. And then Lalu and Mercedes and Elliott rounding out the top 23, and Mancini for the top 24. But we will have to go to the grid because it's such a short formation lap here. Let's see Anthony driving there back to the pit lane. Yanni Simoncic will be leading the way from that outside line. Fabian Ballet on his inside. We've got McDuff and Skovron behind them. And as you see on the right-hand side, just come out there's the restart zone. When they get inside that, Yanni Simoncic will be able to choose when he goes, and it looks like he's just about to go now. Green flag is called. Yanni Simoncic from Burst Esports leads the way. Roy McDuff following him in behind. Ballet's going to have to drop into that third place. Damien Skovron and Jan Vosnitsa are also trying to get up there as they go side by side in towards turn 1, turn 2 for the first time, and all the drivers in the background try and work themselves into a single file line, but that is going to take a little while to work out. Ballet there just sliding the rear a little bit, and Vosnitsa goes round his outside.
He does. Damien Skovron wanted to get involved as well. A perfect start so far for the Burst Esports car. Yanni Simoncic from pole. McDuff up to second as well, doing a really good job. There's Victor Ivanov straight away to the low line to try and get to the inside of Damien Skovron. But again, you've got to get into the rhythm of things very, very quickly. Here's Matt Tewson trying to go around the outside of Steneker, and now he's going to have the draft towards T1, but on that inside line, he might actually just get freight train. There is, I think, Wim Howard or maybe Mercedes trying to force his way through as well. But yeah, you've got to get into rhythm now. You've got to try and make up some places, and also not battle too hard, because the more you fight, the more time you lose to that pack of trainer cars in front of you.
And look out for the slipstream being pretty big around here, but you will see probably some bumper drafting trains form, and it's going to be a little bit one line. It's hard to keep the two lines around here, such is the nature of the track in these style of cars. But we see Erchan here, championship leads in 10th place as it stands behind Thomas Vac for RSR, and they're going to have to try and work themselves to the front. It's actually a little bit further up. Damien Skovron going side by side with Victor Ivanov coming up the inside towards turn 1. Danny Van Den Eek following him in behind as well. Skovron there just having to drop in behind the Tribute Racing car, but it's 3 wide at the front of the field. McDuff trying to get up the inside, but it's actually Woznitzer all the way around the outside of the pair of them, going past Yanni Simičić up onto the back straight now.
Beautifully done from Jan Woznitzer up ahead of Yanni Simičić. That is played to perfection, using the high side of the banking to his benefit. There's Fabian Barley looking to the inside of Yanni Simičić. Morik McDuff having to tuck in now for P4. There's also side by side between Skovron. He's been pushed out a little bit wide. Now they're 3 wide with Ivanov and Slot Zooks there on the inside. The 23 able to catapult himself up into the top 5. And with that poor run, that damaged momentum, Damien Skovron down to P8.
Absolutely, and he's dropping a little bit, but of course the fight is never over around here. The slipstream will just bring you up as you're getting a driver there already a lap down, potentially Martin coming up to be a lap down. He's obviously had a few issues there towards the front, and look at this huge pack coming towards turn 3. They're certainly going to stay together as we're getting McDuff there going side by side. Fabian Ballet trying to get himself back up towards the front. McDuff potentially dropping down into 4th position here, but of course they're almost 3 wide in the background, still side by side between the two, fighting for that slipstream. But just look at the slipstream. McDuff gets back up into 3rd.
Yeah, you really cannot afford to be out of the slipstream. It is so powerful, especially around the ovals. And Fabian Barley got the short end of the stick there, but he's going to straight away come back on the offensive to the outside of turn number 2 on Rory McDuff. Is he going to get the benefit of the slipstream from Yanni Simičić? Yes, he is. And you could see there, McDuff was trying to get the squeeze to stay ahead, but Fabian Barley said no and held firm and was able to hang on. Oh, that's a big moment there from Victor Ivanov. Nearly collected a couple of cars. Oh, still might. They all try and duck and dive their way to avoid it, and how we haven't resulted in a crash, I do not know.
That is a bit of luck, because they're almost 4 wide, I think, coming across the start-finish line. We've got Steneker in there, got Zooks in there as well. In fact, all trying to fight for place, and this just shows you the massive pack, the massive stress that these drivers are going to be going through, trying to get themselves into that track position. But you've got to be careful as well. You want to be making sure you're keeping your car clean, as of course damage is a thing to think about here. As we've seen the 2 teammates for Tribute Racing trying to always push each other just a little bit with the aero push, coming in towards 3 and 4 for another time, and a little bit further up, actually McDuff maybe losing another place with Zooks trying to get up the inside of turn 3. Now turn 4, and we're getting a caution in the background.
It's a closed.
Already into a caution period. We're on to lap 7. Not entirely sure as to what, but there was definitely something going on. Ryan Elliott has unfortunately DNF. There's someone going slow. This is Via for Zancho. He's also off onto the grass. The pit lane unfortunately is closed for the time being, so we won't see an abundance of people darting into the pit lane, at least for the moment. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, we've had a very chaotic start, so I'm honestly surprised it's taken this long.
Oh yeah, look at that. There's almost 5 wide up ahead. We get, I think it was Mazidis going for a spin in the background. That's Mancini getting involved there. And in the background, there's a couple of cars getting involved via, as well as one of the ETCG cars, I think, as well. So not the worst crash in the world, but enough for that first caution to come out. And I wonder, is it too early for anyone to start coming into the pit lane? Let's see. But Darius Andre round the outside looks like he's going to be involved in this in some way, and just potentially a little bit unfortunate because he couldn't really choose too much where to go. But actually, he gets out of that pretty well unscathed.
Yeah, and riding on board with Musadis, that could have very quickly ended in disaster for Chan. And now looking to the inside of this, that is a big send. They're going to be 3 wide. You can definitely tell this is...
Pits are now open for lead lap cars.
Oh, and then managed to spin round at the end of it. Oh my word, that is scary to watch. But now we get information that the pit lane is open for the lead lap cars. So are we going to see anyone darting?
Absolutely. This is going to be potentially the time as they come around 3 and 4, as we are 8 laps into it. So is that going to be enough for anyone to think about diving in? None of the leaders, they all choose to stay out and have the track position. One feedback that we got from the drivers from the last race is that the difference between the safety car speed and the pit lane speed was too close. So basically, you gained too much by going into the pit lane. So for this race, we've increased the rolling speed of the safety car. As you can see, they're still going a fairly decent pace, and the pit lane is a lot slower. So hopefully now you lose a lot more time, and you're definitely going towards the back of the pack if you go in. So a further loss, as we're seeing in the background there, one of the Zantra cars potentially via coming out of the pit lane.
Pits are now open for everyone else. Pits are now open for lap cars.
If anyone decides to come in this time around, but that would be a silly thing to do because there's going to be even less time for you to cycle back to the front. Let's see if anyone chooses to do so this time around. Looks like they're not going to.
Yeah, so strategy-wise, it is a little bit too early to call, but I mean, we're only on lap 9 of 87, still a long way to go. It is almost sort of not going to be too beneficial, because if you come in now and you drop all that track position, chances are there's going to be a caution before your next scheduled stop, and when that happens, people are going to come in anyway, and then you're just going to be sort of behind a longer train of cars, yeah, it is going to be quite difficult to catch up from that. But one driver that really hasn't gotten this race off to a good start is Carlos Martin. He obviously had so much fun at Gateway, he wanted to have a full-time drive, but coming into Gateway,
themselves on the high line. The lead lap cars, please,
coming into California, wanted to get off to a good start, but yeah, unfortunately for him, it's not been the best start.
So lap cars being able to get past, but of course they had to just get to the right-hand side as lap cars go on the high line to get themselves back onto their lap, which is the exact reason why sometimes it doesn't matter if you get yourselves involved in a crash. So you just got to be making sure you're not involved in all of them, because you do go to the back of the pack, but you will be able to get your lead lap back potentially. There's quite a few cars though actually that were a lap down, so a lot of drivers there involved, and obviously for them the laps are still counting down and the opportunities are still counting down. But look, all of those drivers there getting themselves on the lead lap, that is going to be a big opportunity for those guys.
It is, and it is one of the big benefits, I guess, of this Stock Car Pro Series, is that the lap cars do get their lap back under the caution. Yes, it does prolong the caution period a little bit longer, but it does give those guys at the back sort of a chance to recover, get onto that lead lap, because we've seen it time and time again that as long as you're on the lead lap, you definitely do still have a really good chance.
You certainly do. We're coming to start lap 12 now, but I guess there's only probably going to be one more lap or so just to let those cars just ahead of the safety car get far enough ahead, and then we'll be going back green. Of course, 87 laps, so yeah, still plenty of racing. 75 laps of racing still to go, and the laps will certainly go down pretty quickly around here, about 35 seconds or so for a lap. And that, of course, means, in theory, if it's a green flag race, it will be fairly short, but these caution periods certainly add something for the drivers to think about. And as it stands, Jan Vosnitzer is still leading the way from Simičić, Ballet, McDuff and Zoltjukes.
So the remaining lap cars may unlap themselves again.
And I think basically they're doing this because there's a few lapped cars still in the way of the pack, and that is why they are being able to do that. And then there'll probably be one more lap then of this flag. But what this does is also this puts us further into the race, and of course makes the tyres go that little bit longer, Zach. So when we were talking earlier about being like 3 and a bit stints, maybe now it'll be straight 3, and then of course the drivers will be able to basically get to the end on potentially just another 2 stops from now.
For sure possible, and this, I'm not going to count it as the only caution in this race. If it is, then fair enough, but chances are that's not going to be the case at all. So maths wise, at the start of the race, if it was green all the way through, 28 lap stints, it would be just over 3 stops that they would have to sort of finagle and try and fit into nice and comfortable 3. But now it should be fairly easy to be able to do. But again, we might have a late caution. Someone might chance it and go in for an extra stop to have fresh tyres for the final sort of dash at the end. It doesn't matter where we are in the race, doesn't matter what the quote-unquote optimal strategy for that point in time is, whether it's going to be 2 more stops, 3 more stops, or just 1 more stop to the end. There's, pretty good chance there's going to be a curveball somewhere or other between that point and the
We will continue racing at the end of this lap. We will go green at the end of this lap.
As we go green at the end of this lap, and yeah, you're right, the drivers will now need to get back in that racing mindset. They know what is going to be going on. They've had a little bit of a break now, and then they will be getting back racing. Anthony Nitzpon there at the front will be leading the way, and Woznitsa will be taking control of the field. And as they come around the exit of turn 4, they'll be slowing down to 150 Ks, and when they get inside that restart zone, they will then be able to choose when they are, Woznitsa will be able to choose when they are going to be going back green. And of course, getting a good run is so important, because if you can try and pull away a group of 5 or 10 cars, that will certainly help out. But let's see how that one works as we go green. Once again here for the California 175, McDuff has got a good run there, good restart for the 91 car, coming to the outside of turn 1. Fabian Ballet is on his inside. They've got Zoltschutz trying to get the slipstream in the background as well. Can McDuff go all the way around the outside? Yes, he can. Gains that place as we go a bit further back. Thomas Vag there gets himself up into 10th place around the outside of Liam Howard in the background as well. So good restart there as we separate into 2 lines down the back straight.
You got to pick a line and commit to it. Is the inside or outside going to work? A couple of moves. That's Tucson to the inside of Danny Vandeny of the turn 3 and 4. He's gone to the low line, but Vandeny is giving him a really good run on that outside line, and it depends if he's got some people accompanying him as they exit to get that slipstream, to get that draft. Has Tucson got the measure? Damien Scovron and Scott Jutes as well, fighting over the final places inside the top 5, and already it's kicking off after the restart.
This certainly is 3 wide as we come through turn 2 a little bit further back as well. So it's good to see all the drivers still keeping it nice and clean. Mitchie Hoy on the outside of Jake Dennehan, as well as I think Erchan on the inside. 3 wide down the back straight, trying to get the slipstream, trying to work out where they can slot their car back in. Mitchie Hoy does manage to complete that move on the outside of Dennehan. He gets himself up 2 places in that one. The Monaco car there of Borja Milan also involved in a big battle a bit further down as we're getting loads of cars. The 14 spinning around there. Borja Milan involved as well as we get another spinner on the exit of turn 4.
Didn't take much for another caution to be called, and I think it was Kevin Morville going round again. And cautions do breed cautions. Everyone's bunched up once again. Everyone's eyeing up an opportunity to move forward, and when that happens, that desperation starts to kick in, and it does increase the likelihood of action kicking off. But we're going to look through it again, and just what happened, Cam?
Yeah, let's see this run coming towards 3 and 4, as we're seeing as Ampazidis there, the number 14 car for Netrex Grand Prix. He's just making a bit of contact there actually with Erchan, and that put him in the wall, but it was actually what happened afterwards, losing the rear end, coming down too early and just collecting the likes of Milan and Kevin Morville there. Does he collect anyone further? Doesn't look like he does so, and he also doesn't go into the pit lane, so definitely no damage there, just a little bit of a spin, so hopefully this is a bit of a short caution. But look at that, 3 wide as Mitchie Hoy gets a massive run there from the car ahead of it.
Yeah, managed to catapult himself up a place, and then Ampadidas just went in a bit too hot, tapped the back of Erchan in front, and then slammed into the wall. Managed to sort of correct it, and then spun the rear again.
For lead lap cars. Pits are now open for lead lap cars.
And then managed to bring it back round and then rejoin the circuit. So not too much damage, but that definitely could have ended worse.
Yeah, fortunately we can say that from both of the first cautions. There's Riboli there having some struggles over the course of the grass. So we're now 18 laps into the race, so we're about halfway on the fuel tank for these drivers, maybe a bit more, and that is going to be potentially a big factor for the race. Is the fuel, of course. These safety car laps use a lot less fuel and keep the tyres going as we're getting TX3 in the pit lane. We're getting Ballet and Erchan coming down. We've also got a couple of other drivers into the pit lane. So guys a little bit further back choosing to get the fresher tyres now. They'll be at the back of the pack, but then if we get another caution, they won't have to pit, so they'll then cycle to the front. So this is a strategic call from these drivers, pitting a bit early, trying to do something different.
Yeah, fair enough to them for trying it. Of course, when they do exit the pit lane, they will rejoin the back of the train. And based on how quickly...
It's now open for non-lead lap cars. It's now open for non-lead lap cars.
And when, based on how short the gap between the first and second caution were, they might be able to do something really clever with this. And if it does pay off for them, then fair enough. But there's also no harm in doing it. If it doesn't end up their way, all they're really doing is going sort of back to the grid. And if there's not another caution, it's not going to be too harmful in the grand scheme of things. There's still a lot of time to recover from it. So they might as well have.
Yeah, and these guys will all be obviously having to cycle their way around. They'll probably be allowed to get back onto the back of the pack, but such is the nature of the track they are basically losing the lap from doing that. So hopefully, for their sake, they'll be able to get back on. But yeah, so what's going to happen here is they're going to drop to the back. And
Lap cars
then
may
what they are hoping
unlap themselves
is
on
that
the
they
high
will
line.
basically be
Lap
able
cars
to
may unlap themselves on the high line.
get another caution and then basically get their lap back that way as well, as the drivers try and work their way to be able to unlap themselves. But yeah, what they're trying to do is basically get one step ahead. So this will work if there's another caution in like a moderate time period afterwards. If there's cautions every single 5 laps or so, this won't work. So that is why it's in some ways a risk. Sometimes you want track position and sometimes you want the strategic position.
And it is sort of a difficult balance to know when you want each of those benefits. But yeah, that again comes with the difficulty of these oval type races, because as much as strategy is going to play a massive factor, there is also a massive element of luck, both in the physical on-track racing and also the pit strategy as well, because you don't know when a caution is going to come out. All you can do is predict. Likelihood, a fair assumption is, yes, another caution is going to come out fairly soon, maybe, based off the patterns that we've seen so far in this race and a gateway as well. But also, this could be the last caution all the way to the end of the race, and you can't guarantee anything. So, yes, you can go off some pretty safe assumptions, but again, you can't back everything into that happening.
Absolutely. It's going to be a tricky one for the drivers. We're already a quarter way into the race, had 2 cautions. Hopefully the drivers can keep it a little bit cleaner as the race progresses. But sometimes this is a good position if you are towards the front, because you can basically just consolidate your position for a further few laps, get the tyres cool, and then go once again. And we have seen quite a few drivers actually make up a few places. Denhan's made up quite a few, Michi Hoyer as well from the start. So certainly it's possible to get yourself through. So that is why keeping yourself in the game is the important factor. And with the lapped drivers just getting themselves up, we will have to see if we will be going back green at the end of this lap. Certainly getting to that point. But for sure, we are now a quarter way through the race, and the drivers will be starting to think about doing this pit stop, I think, because we said it's 28 laps on a full...
We will continue racing at the end of this lap. We will
yourself.
continue racing at the end of this lap.
But when we're in the caution periods, maybe they can get to 35 or so. So we may be getting some green flag pit stops if we go green for quite a while on this next stint. As we're coming round to the back straight, Anthony Nispon driving the safety car. He will be leaving the way of the drivers for a little bit. Drivers come through turn 3, turn 4, as the drivers have to grid up. Jan Vosnitzer got a good run last time, as Rowan Duff got a pretty good run actually. Can he get Simičić on this one? Skovron has also been making some good progress, but shoots behind. We always know he's an aggressive driver. But as you come through turn 4, here is Jan Vosnitzer coming towards the restart zone. When is he going to go? It looks like he's gone now. And who is going to be making a move? It looks like it's actually going to be Victor Ivanov in the background trying to make a move. And look at that. Jürgen van Bergen getting a huge run. So is Michi Hoyer. So Slipstream now starts to come in between the drivers. 4 wide in the mid-pack. That is what you want to see. So the drivers try and fire themselves through turn 1 and 2. Bit of contact there in the background. Number 7 car just sliding. That's Matt Tusen, but he was able to save it. It's even more contact between the 2 cars in the wall. Ooh. Matt Tusen is round, and so is Steneker. And I think and Zidis in the background as well, as they continue driving for a little bit. No caution call just yet, but Zach is starting to heat up.
It really is, and straight away a couple of cars going off. It was absolute carnage and chaos. Michi Hoyer in the middle of what could be 3, nearly 4 wide, and he's going to emerge. There's a couple of cars in front of him going a bit slowly. He's tucked into the slipstream with the Sancho driver of Vi on the outside of Andre, as well as they head in towards T1 and T2 once again. Michi Hoyer's had a pretty good race, a pretty poor qualifying, but he's not shied away from making these moves in the race.
He certainly has, and he's trying to work his way up towards the front, but actually lost places on this restart. Jake Denhan, who's actually making some places there in that part of the field as they try and work their way through 3 and 4 once again on the back of that Zancho car of Sido Var. And it's just that slipstream just really slingshots you past sometimes. You've got to be careful looking in the mirror, seeing who is getting a run on you behind. I'm sure some of these drivers do actually have a spotter here and there. I think that's Carlos Martin. He's managed to get himself back up to 18th place from being a lap down. That's just why you want to stay in this field, and he's going side by side there. Darius Andre round the outside. Is he going to just drop back? I think Martin might just get on the exit, and he has done up to 17th.
Good stuff from Carlos Martin. Of course, he was 2 laps down at the end of the first caution, really fighting his way back through, up now to 17th. So he's still definitely within a shout for a good place. That is very sideways there. That's Via in the middle of Harry Smith or Michi Horan is outside, and I think the 22 to the low side. That was very, very close to disaster, and yeah, definitely could have ended very badly indeed. Michi Hoyer now swooping around the outside to P14. There's the 22. That Andre coming through on the inside of Via as well. This, lower mid pack is really going at it, Cam.
And this is where the important places are, because you could easily gain 5 or 6 or even lose 5 or 6 if you are not too careful. As Andre there trying to push Via towards turn number 1. Got Munia here on the inside as well, as on his outside. That's Carlos Martin, who's dropped down a couple of places, as it just goes up and down so easy with drivers going past each other so fluidly on this lap. It's certainly one that keeps the momentum going. You barely brake for the corners, just a bit of a lift sometimes as we go 4 wide in towards turn 1. Carlos Martin on the inside, the 33 there. Vlietstra just chopping him off into turn 1. Nice defending there from the Dutch driver, and has come out onto the back straight. Looks like he's held onto it.
Yeah, well, just sending it in and hanging on to it. So really well done as they all again into T3. There's Erchan, our championship leader, down to P20, but he did come in a little bit earlier relative to everyone else and is trying to fight his way through. It was a mare qualifying for Erchan, but his race pace is where it all counts. Here is Martin under pressure from Moynier. It is definitely all kicking off amongst the mid pack. It's relatively quiet towards the front, apart from this fight here for P5 between Victor Ivanov and Slot Zhutes for P5. But apart from that, the top 4 have really broken away from everyone else.
Yeah, it looks like they've lost the slipstream, has Zhutes and Ivanov, and that means that they just can't stay with those top groups. So the top 4 have an opportunity now to get away. As we come back towards the midfield, we've got Vac here along with Denham. We've got Paul August Lana involved there on the outside line as well. Lianos just pulling him away from Vac, as actually Lianos goes down to the inside there, gives the slipstream to the number 47 as we're getting a 2x2. Denahan and Hoyer also side by side in towards turn 1. Getting very close between the two, side by side for such a long time. Denham now trying to go around the outside and try and make up a position, but can't quite make it work as the wall comes closer and closer on the outside of turn 2. But we'll have to see how the slipstream works coming towards turn 1 or 3.
Yeah, I think it's going to stay single file, at least for the most part, except for Via looking. And there's Harry Smith to his outside. They are 2x2, 2 rows deep with Vlietstra on the outside of Darius Andre. He did a really, really good job. Oh, a bit of a tap there. There's Andre onto the apron as they cross the start-finish line. Andre, despite that, though, with a really, really good run.
Absolutely. Still side by side between so many of these drivers. Andre, they're just slotting into that place, 16th place. And a big wiggle there, though. Vlietstra's just going to give it a tiny tap and just hold his momentum up a little bit as Andre goes wide in the 56 cars. Now, Vlietstra needs to try and get in that slipstream of Via ahead of him. A little bit difficult to do so. Of course, Andre on his outside. Still there is the Visceral driver. As Vlietstra there goes a little bit wide. Bit of contact between the two as they work their way through. Massive slide there through Vlietstra as well. Cars coming out of the pit lane, or coming into the pit lane, I should say, as well, down this front straightaway. Now getting so close between these drivers.
Oh, you really can't separate them by much whatsoever. Here's Jake Denahan, started all the way down in P18 up to P13 now, and on the fringes of a top 10. He's got August Lana in front of him, Michi Hoyer and Lianos between himself and a top 10. And when his main championship rival is down in P20, Jake Denahan is definitely not doing a bad job. Nearly 3 wide with Harry Smith and Via just in behind, but Denahan on a charge to the front.
Absolutely. These guys, of course, still out there from the front, from the start of the race. And always we're getting a slide of theirs at the 46 going around. Erchan, championship leader. He's had a bit of a spin. Has he been able to get going? I think he's just rejoining, but he's going to drop down so many places. Fortunately, not collecting anyone else. There's Denahan there having a bit of an issue, but he looks like he's back in the race, still side by side with Paul August Lana on his outside. Manages to get through as Denahan continues to make places, but it's actually a little bit further ahead. Michi Hoyer, who went went up quite a few places over the course of the last few laps as we go even further to the front as Woznitsa tries to make moves in the top 4.
Yeah, McDuff is there in second place. He's got Damien Skrovron and Jan Woznitsa just in behind. And Jamin Simoncic is looking really comfortable out in front. Here could be the move, though, from Woznitsa to Damien Skrovron. We cut away to Michi Hoyer, but back straight away to this fight for the final podium place. Is Woznitsa going to go the long way round? Doesn't look like he's quite got the momentum to do that, but a bit of a switch from Skrovron might allow Woznitsa to get this run now on that run towards 3 and 4.
Yeah, he might do. The top 2 starting to pull away a little bit. Can Woznitsa get down the inside? It's certainly a bit, potentially a bit of a dive into turn 3, but no, he's started to get back in because they know fighting potentially isn't the way. But actually, Viktor Ivanov has bridged the gap as we've lost out Zhuk somewhere potentially going into the pit lane, as this is definitely the period where those who didn't save fuel are going to have to start coming in, and they don't really have much choice about it. So green flag pit stops coming your way. This could always shake up the order and put cars laps down.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's all could be, again, throw it all up in the air with a massive curveball, as does anything. Here's Vac and looking all very screwly. That RSR car, again, very sideways on the exit. That very easily could have ended in disaster. And what it's done is that Constantino affects everyone behind now is going to try and benefit of it. Vac on the inside of Andre and August Lane, I think, as Andre is able to stay ahead of his teammate, at least for now. But you can just tell how the smallest of switches can really tarnish your momentum.
6 cars there going side by side. Look at this, 3 rows coming down the front straight away. We've got the 2 Visceral cars leading the way, August Lana and Andre, as we're getting some of the cars starting to come out of the pit lane. These guys are going to go a lap down and get involved. Blue flags are not mandatory here, they're only advisory, and therefore they could always get involved in these battles. But it's now lap 36 of 87 around here. We're getting towards 50 laps to go, and it's certainly starting to spice it up just a little bit. Vac still side by side there, but losing out some places as Ballet gets a good run on the exit of turn 4.
Yeah, he does indeed. He's trying to get the exit and get the run still side by side just in front of him now. So he's got to try and get the run still. That is Savalev. And he went to commit to the right-hand side, opted for the inside instead, but might get boxed in. Oh my word, that was very close to the rear left of Savalev. And Barley, he is a top contender in this race for sure. He does not want to throw it away quickly.
He does not, and this is going to be some big laps coming up around here for these guys. If cautions are called, etc., through the pit stop sequence, this could really change things for the orders. There's a bit of contact there between the 2 Mazidis going side by side with Savlev, as Organ's going 3 wide. All the 2 tribute cars just about getting inside the pit lane, and we're getting the drivers doing green flag pit stops. And let's see who is staying out. Simoncic, McDuff, Denham, they're all staying out. They think they've saved enough fuel to get around one more time.
And while they're at the front, they've been chilling, and they might well, be sort of in control of the strategy, at least for now. But yeah, prime time to come in as we approach halfway through in this race, and it might not end up being that 3-stop race that we once thought it might be. But yeah, well, at least for these guys, they are not waiting around for the pits to decide the positions. That is a big moment there for Musadis. He's able to correct it, but again, time and time, lap after lap, we've got our hearts on our mouths as we watch. I think someone was off just in the background onto the grass, not entirely sure, but lap after lap, the margin for error is so slim that you look at side-by-side moments and you wonder how they haven't crashed.
Absolutely. Look at all these cars coming out the pit lane as well. They are getting involved, and this is potentially a time where the effective race leaders of Simoncic and McDuff, they're going to come out and get involved in these battles, which they do not really want to, but certainly it is part of the race as we're getting now to the end of lap 39. Is that Yannick Simoncic? Yes, it is. Where is he going to come out in this big train? You see them coming out of turn 4 now. Is he going to be able to speed up enough to get towards the front of it? I think he should just be able to do so, but they are coming at 190, 200 plus mile an hour with the slipstream, and Simoncic having to try and just speed up as much as he can without coming up off the apron. And there is Jan Woznitsa getting the run out of turn 2. Is he going to get the run towards turn 3 though? Simoncic still getting up to speed. Woznitsa getting closer and closer up the inside as he looks like just going to start pushing Simoncic and getting him back up to speed.
Yeah, so working together quite nicely. Good for Simoncic to still emerge ahead of Woznitsa, but yeah, definitely not much in it whatsoever. Here's Kevin Morville trying to slot himself through the middle. Oh my word, that was very, very close. Able now to still get in the slipstream and maybe stay ahead for what is going to be P12 with Raboli to his inside, but able to hang on. Kevin Morville was involved in quite a big shunt earlier on, so to be up there in 12th, of course, still with a pit strategy to be decided, not a bad string of laps for him at all. My word, bit argy-bargy in the background, a couple of cars off towards the barrier. That might well be a caution, not entirely sure as to who that is as of yet, but that could have been close. That we're getting word that could be Slot Jukes in the barrier. Again, not sure who accompanied him, but wow, that was a pretty fast-paced hit towards the barrier.
That certainly was. No caution called though, because of course they went miles off the track. They weren't affecting anyone else as we continue good to go green flag racing here. 42 laps. Some of these drivers still out, but which just shows you how much the slipstream is around here. If you're in that pack, you're really lifting off, you're getting the slipstream, the less drag, and you can just keep going and going, as Fabian Ballet now is staying out in the lead of this race. But so many cars, the top 11, all still out there, and it's difficult to work out who exactly is in these battle packs, because of course some of the lead lap drivers are getting involved a lap down as well. So you come back to P17, but this is the effective race lead as we're getting Simičić and Voznica coming towards the line together as they're trying to get the slipstream, get the run as well. It's certainly a big fight between these two.
It is big stuff between Yannis Simičić and Jan Voznica. Damian Skovron just in behind. They would hate it if a caution was called right now after only just coming into the pit lane, because where they are now they probably would retain, but that still wouldn't be the end of the world for sure, as Jan Voznica is trying to follow Simičić through. That's on one of the tribute racing cars who are probably a lap down, and we do have to be careful because those cars are going to be fighting to stay on the lead lap. It's not like in any other racing where it's like, okay, fair enough, I'm going to be nice and let you through here, because they're fighting to stay on the lead lap. If a caution comes out, they want to be on that lead lap.
Absolutely, and you want to, of course, you want to be allowed your lap back, but being on the lead lap itself is certainly quite important. Getting Munier here a little bit sort of further up the field is in third place. Borja Milan on his outside now, just dropping in behind. These guys still are staying out. You see the green car in the front. That is Ballet leading the race, still out as well, as there's a load of lap cars in between them as they're trying to battle side by side here, coming through 3 and 4. Munier keeping it down tight. Milan going all the way around the outside of 3 and 4. Any of these drivers going to start coming into the pit lane? Yeah, it looks like Munier coming in, and now might be a run for Mirko Mancini now as we come down the start-finish straights.
Borja Milan is going to be under a bit of pressure. Maybe Mancini is going to go to the right-hand side, but not put any pressure into T1 and T2. The Monaco driver, Borja Milan, has shown some pretty good pace so far in the Pro Cup series, but we cut our attention back to this fight between Simičić, Voznica and Skovron, and all of them really haven't let each other breathe at all. A little bit further back is Michi Hoy with McDuff, who has really fallen back relative to Simičić, Voznica and Skovron.
Absolutely, and he's certainly dropped out potentially, I don't know, taking more fuel, or maybe he took all 4 tyres when other people only took 2 tyres. That is certainly something, because that takes an extra 4 seconds or so. And of course that is something to look out for. But you can also see next to the driver's name their stint lengths, and of course the drivers towards the front also would have been taking pit stops at some of those earlier cautions, which is always something to think about. But you can see here, I think that's Lalu on the outside trying to get involved with this battle, and that is a legit battle, though he does need to make a pit stop fairly soon. 26 laps out on that stint for him, as Voznica working his way towards the front. We've got Stenica involved there, a lap down with Skovron as well. So this is obviously playing in a big factor potentially in these battles, as we're getting Danny Van Den Eek ahead of Simičić as well. So loads of different cars. You're trying to work out who you're racing, who you're not. It can get quite confusing.
It can. It's very chaotic out there, especially around the green flag pit lane windows. Under caution, it's not so much as chaotic, but there's Simičić going to the inside of Van Den Eek. Voznica is a little bit behind, but that could allow him to close up just a little bit from the lack momentum from Simičić. But again, you've got to be careful lapping these guys, because they're not going to be too much slower, so much that they're going to be holding you up per se, but they are going to, that is going to be a margin of difference. You do ideally want to find a way through, but is it worth sending a move? There's also Damian Skovron. No, it's not. It's Voznica getting through on a lap car. That is completely my mistake, but Skovron's still trying to tuck through. But when it comes to lap traffic, it's not do or die, and if you send a move, it can very easily go wrong. There's McDuff on the inside of Hoyer. Oh my word, very close to the barrier on the outside, and oh well, McDuff definitely skating through there, flirting with disaster.
Yeah, just trying to, as you say, just skate through, slide through nicely without losing too much time. As Hoyer goes a little bit wide there in turn 4, he's going to lose a bit of the slipstream down the front straightaways. We're getting Raboli in the pit lane and Pitzidis in the pit lane. 29 laps for the guys at the front. So let's see how long they go on for. We aren't expecting too much more than 30, really, unless you saved loads with slipstream and through the multiple safety car periods that we've had. But we've been going green flag for quite a while now, which is why we're seeing these green flag pit stops just change the way that potentially this race is going to go. We're already getting towards lap 50, so the laps do certainly kick off quite quickly when we start going green flag racing.
Fabian Barley he's leading the way. He's ahead of Volante, who started, I believe, at the back of the grid, dead last. Did Volante? I think he had a back of the grid penalty or something, or other. And between the pair of them, they are fighting their way through very, very well. Barley with a bit of a lead, but again with pit strategy and things to fill themselves out. But Volante from the back of the grid has really fought his way through. Same too with Carlos Martin when it comes to comeback drivers. The Team Iris driver now full-time to the rest of the season. Considering he was 2 laps down at the end of the first caution, not bad at all. And also Lalu, last time at a Gateway, did a big old worldie when it comes to the strategy, able to catapult himself into contention. And we've got a fair number of redemption stories on the grid today.
We certainly do, as there's Ivanov there having a nice battle with Mitchie. Hoyer McDuff has gone away, so Hoyer just really starting to slow down, and is that Vlietster, I think, getting past, but he, I think, is also, he's a lap down as well in this battle, so not quite involved. So Mitchie Hoyer going backwards in this stint so far, maybe using too much of those tyres, because look at McDuff all the way out there, and now Ivanov just pulling away as well. So that is the train ahead of them, who they need to look out for, as Ballet's coming in, as well as we've got Mancini, Valente, Urchan, all of them starting to come in, as that was about 31, 32 laps they did, even with some cautions.
And that could, if a couple of cautions do come out between now and the end, could see them to the end of this race. If their tyres are still in good nick, they might not have to make another stop if they can stretch it. But again, we will see when it comes to that. Damien Skovron, Jan Vizitsa and Jano Simičić re-inherit their positions at the top of the timing tower, with Jano Simičić leading the way. From the start of this race, Simičić hasn't been put under much pressure at all, and he seems so calm and composed considering the fact that he is only just getting warmed up when it comes to over racing this season.
Absolutely, but look at the lap traffic the Simičić is trying to get through as well, a bit ahead of this. Certainly a few cars to get involved, and that is not necessarily what you want, because it's more fighting, it's more stress, it's more maybe load on the tyres as well with some dirty air and things like that. So you definitely have to think about that, as we're seeing Denhan here battling with Carlos Martin just ahead, and Tomasz Vak just behind as we come down the front straight away. Lap 52 is in place. Tomasz Vak looking towards the outside, but Denhan also trying to do that, opening up this turn 1 and 2. Want to stay nice and low down towards the apron, and then start to wind out this steering lock again. Get straight as you can down this back straight, getting all the speed, because this is the only actual straight section of the track, because the whole bit through the front straightaway, you're just continuously turning left.
Yeah, and the car is on a bit of a tight edge when it comes to turning, and it is nice to just be able to relax a little bit down the back straight away, use that slipstream properly. But yeah, you are still turning on this run towards T1 and T2. Doesn't make too big of an effect when it comes to overtakes. You still can make it, but yeah, you can see the front straightaway is banked just slightly. Tomasz Vak still on the back of Jake Dennehan as they carve their way through a bit of lap traffic, and what that's done for the RSR driver is completely tarnished this run now, finally down the back straightaway towards T3 and 4, and what could have been a good opportunity to make a move past has now turned into him playing catch up.
It certainly has, and as we're starting to see, maybe because there's quite a big offset, maybe the new tyres are going to start coming into play for those drivers staying out in their relative battles. But Ballet, not too much difference, just 6 laps between him and Munir there for 11th place. Let's see the slipstream though coming across the front straightaway. It is certainly quite powerful, but not enough there for Ballet to try and get through. And this is, of course, really getting the exits. That's the important point. If you push too much in the opening part of your stint, the rear right tyre especially is just going to start screaming, and you're not going to be able to get off the corner. That's why you see the drivers start sliding around as they both now get a run on Mazidis down towards turn 3 and 4 to the outside. Munier goes to the inside. Ballet goes trying to get this little bit of slipstream on the exit from Mazidis. Might be able to get a run here out to turn 4 as we come up the front straightaway, and yeah, that is definitely going to be the slipstream on the outside now. Can he push past? There's definitely a bump draft in his car. Mazidis might be losing out 2 places here into turn 1.
He might well be. Fabien Bardet is definitely eyeing up following Loic Mounier through, but he might actually duck back to the inside to follow Mercedes through. It is tough to call which line to take, which one's going to emerge better, but he's going to opt with the line with Loic Mounier to get that slipstream and push his way through. Mercedes might well lose that place to Bardet. Now the hard work for the TX3 driver to go around the outside of T3 and 4, but it looks like he's been able to do that with the slipstream, with the help from Loic Mounier, and that is crucial, playing as a couple to mutually benefit both of you when it comes to pack racing.
Yeah, indeed, this is getting closer and closer for these drivers, but Ballet's still sitting behind their good move, though, to help push himself past and basically make up a place for free for not really doing too much work. Ahead of them, I believe, is Prickin, who's a lap down potentially, and then it's Jake Denhan. As a car is off there, one of the Visceral cars, he's sliding his way. Obviously had a bit of contact on the exit of turn 2, trying to get back up to speed, and that, I believe, is a car that's a lap down.
Yeah, I think that is the case. Rejoining the circuit and not too big of a danger to those around him. So no caution called, side by side, just ahead of that fight with Fabien Bardet. We cut our attention a little bit further down. This is Lianos on the back of Mirko Mancini for the fringes of the top 20. So a lot of action all the way up and down the grid. We're seeing a couple of sort of crucial fights start to form for, you know, the upper field, the mid pack, the lower mid pack. There is action pretty much everywhere you look.
Yeah, it certainly is, and that is definitely why you need to definitely keep yourself going in these races. Ballet just looking up the inside. Jake Denhan ahead of them now, as I do believe that's Prickin, who's be able to get past Denhan, starting to drop off. And of course, as I mentioned, these tyres will start to slide. 18 laps for Denhan, 6 laps for Ballet. That is a big difference over the course of the race distance. Lap 58 we're on now, so under 30 laps to go in this race. Can Ballet try and slide away past Denhan, defending to the inside? Mounier going to the outside, trying to use that extra grip, can definitely do so. We'll have a better run as well, as Ballet trying to slip through as well. Denhan loses 2 places in 1 corner.
Oh, wow, that is, again, for Denhan, he's a championship contender. He doesn't want to take too many risks. And in situations like that, it's natural for him to want to back out, because if he kept his foot in, it very easily could have ended in calamity for him, which, you know, when then there's only 2 races left to go. He's in P2 in the championship. You don't want to be risking that. Thomas Frack just in front of him to the inside. Michi Hoyer as well. They are going side by side again. Fabien Bardet trying to push his way through. And Thomas Frack on the inside is going to be able to get ahead of Michi Hoyer for P7. That looks to be the case, and Michi Hoyer could be stranded out there on the outside. Here comes Fabien Bardet following him through. Same to Loic Mounier up in a 7th place, and Loic Mounier actually the big gainer out of all of that.
Yeah, Mitchell also starting to lose out on his 24-lap old tyres, and Ballet's doing such a good job here to try and push through with Mounier. They've been making up so many places. They've got Carlos Martin ahead of them now, just showing you the difference between the tyres here at the Apple Valley Speedway. It might just be slightly turning left. It might just be, you know, looking like it's so easy, but it really does kill the tyres. There's so much pressure going onto those outside tyres, just consistently turning left constantly. And once that, the thermal deck gets into the tyres, once the temperatures get up there, it's very difficult to keep the pace going.
It is, and going back to that point about the front straightaway not quite being straight, that's even more strain on those outside tyres. The lateral load just pushing its way out to the outside and forcing more wear on the outer edges of the tyres. It really does start to kick in, really does start to affect them, and even only after 15-20 laps on a set of tyres you start to feel that effect. And when we were saying the margin is so slim, even the slightest of loss in momentum can, you know, in effect exaggerate your problems in terms of time loss down the back straight, through corners, etc. You can definitely tell there is going to be a big difference with those on fresher tyres as opposed to those on slightly older tyres, and definitely that theory is coming into practice today with the difference in some of those that pit for fresh tyres.
And when we get to these final pit stops, will some people try only swapping the right-sided tyres? Of course, the left sides don't do so much work, but they still wear a bit. You'll lose a tiny bit of the grip on that inside, pulling you down to the corner as well. So you definitely want to get some newer tyres if you can, but you will save yourself some time. And I do wonder if anyone's going to take that risk. As Muzaidis now batting with Hoyer. Hoyer is just going backwards and backwards. McDuff is up in 4th, and Hoyer is down in 12th. They were battling not so long ago, and there's now about 8 seconds between them, just showing you if you ruin your tyres a little bit, you are going to start struggling.
Yeah, and that problem gets exaggerated the longer and longer you prolong it. Here's McDuff, fighting his way through, back ahead now of Damien Skovron, and on the back. Actually, no, definitely not on the back of Yanis Simičić and Jan Wisnica. So Skovron has really dropped off the front two of Simičić and Wisnica. McDuff back up in a P3, so it is very topsy-turvy amongst those towards the front. We thought McDuff definitely could have been out of it a little bit when he fell off the three at the front, but now back onto the podium, and wondering where this sudden loss of 4 seconds is coming from, because none of them have come into the pit lane.
Yeah, definitely not, but that I think just shows you how easy it is actually to lose seconds around his. Ballet finally chooses to go to the outside of Munia and make that place. He's been pushing him for about 15 laps now or so, maybe 10 laps or so, really just since he came out the pit lane on this stint, and it's certainly been working, but he's now decided this is the time for Ballet to get to the front. He's made up so many places, and he wants to now try and follow Ivanov through. As we've seen one of the race clutch cars there, I think as Van Bergen dropping down, as it's actually Ivanov who's dropped off the back quite a way now, and Ballet going through even on the exit of turn 2, just showing the momentum that he had and the grip that he's got, and now he's going to be tried to be pushed along with Ivanov, but you can see Ivanov just can't keep it down. Such a big disparity in the grip between these cars at this moment in time.
It is, and you can visually see it. As you said, Ivanov really struggling to keep the car to the low side of the track and minimize his distance around the corner, because the tyres just wouldn't allow him to do that versus Fabian Ballet. 13 laps doesn't seem like much, but a big difference shown in the levels of grip. Our front two, Yanis Simičić and Jan Wisnica, are following each other very closely in tow, and once again Wisnica, like we saw at Gateway, opting to be more conservative. He's happy at the moment just to sit in second.
Yeah, definitely saving some fuel as well. He might be able to save a lap or two in that battle, and that could be so crucial depending on when we get these final pit stops. We have got green flag though. 28 laps for Wisnica is certainly not going to be too far away from where we see these guys come in, and there's obviously still 20 laps to go. So those who have got maybe 10 laps, 15 laps on their tyres now, they'll be pitting a lot later in the race. They'll have fresher tyres at the end, as it looks like Carlos Martin is one of the first to pit in this next phase of pit stops.
Could be the final round of pit stops as well, bearing in mind maybe a caution. But to be fair to these guys, we've gone a fair while without a caution. The second caution came out on lap 19. We're now on to lap 66. So a long time green flag. So I don't think now you can really bank on there being an extra caution. I think maybe these drivers are trying to anchor in and hope that it's going to be green to the end.
The only good thing with the guys pitting earlier now, that means if there is a caution, they'll obviously bunch up, then the leaders will then drop behind them in the line. So this is not necessarily a bad thing for those pitting now, as Denahan, Ivanov, they start to come in. As in Wisnica, he's 29 laps on those tyres, but he has been just sitting, pushing Yanis Simičić along as well. So I think Wisnica is going to have plenty of fuel left in that car, as we're starting to see one of the Royal Blue cars. As there's a big slide there. Simičić comes in, the Royal Blue car goes ahead of Wisnica as we come down. Such is the way potentially off the tyres. Wisnica is going to be really starting to struggle, but is it going to be one lap? Is it going to be two? How many laps longer can Wisnica go?
It'll be interesting to see, but it was a big save from Wisnica. When you're going that quick in cars these delicate, it is so difficult to save that. But Wisnica, yeah, we'll see how much longer he stretches this, because right now he's all by himself. He's, not in any slipstream. He's taken the full brunt force of the air, that drag as he runs through, and of course he got that Royal Blue. Oh my word, that was close. He ends up going into the barrier himself, but Wisnica definitely hard in the mouth moment. He pulls himself onto the apron and into the pit lane, but oh my god, Gerhard Basler, he just swiped to the right so suddenly, and the fact that he managed to avoid him was lucky, because that was a very scary moment as we see Simičić leave the pit lane.
That was close. That was very close indeed. As Skovron just behind as well, coming back out. And as you see, they have to stay on the apron the whole way round, as they will obviously have a slightly slower run. But where are they going to come out in the pack? It looks like Danny Van Den Eet there, who was actually quite close to Yanis Simičić at one point as well in that lead lap battle, as the battle to get on the lead up, I should say, for Danny Van Den Eet. Wisnica, McDuff also in the pit lane as it stands. Van Den Eet goes in, so this is definitely this time for all these guys. But look at Ballet, he's got back to the front, and he's still got another maybe 10 laps or so he's going to have a lot fresher tyres at the end. It's still pretty hard to write and guess who's going to come out on top. We still don't know maybe if there'll be a final caution.
We don't, and every time that camera spins, I think Simicic has gone off, and it scares the life out of me each and every time. But no, it's just the camera turning back to face the right way. No panic. That's probably just me. That's probably just me being an idiot. But yeah, no, Simicic is perfectly fine. It is a race versus him and Wisnica. But yeah, it's so unpredictable as to who's going to come out on top, because as we said before the race even started, there's going to be a big range in terms of the pit strategy, different people doing different things, and this is Simicic to the outside of Roy McDuff. Is he going to be able to get up? Yes, he is, because of that tarnished momentum from McDuff, and that really has been the selling point of this race, hasn't it, of just those small mistakes costing you those positions.
And Simicic has definitely dropped back here. Jan Wisnica has gone up, gained some time. I wonder if Wisnica and McDuff only took 2 tyres there, because Simicic has dropped back so much through that round of stops. I wonder if they have taken a risk with it being sort of only a half stint towards the end. I wonder if they have taken that risk to only take the outside tyres. Is that going to be enough pace difference? We will have to find out. But Wisnica leading the way now effectively, although he's got cars ahead of him.
He has, and it's that lap traffic that has proven difficult before. He's going to try and go through the middle of them. That is, I think that's Vice, one of the Sancho cars, going to the outside, and I think that he's just going to be a little bit more careful. There's Fabian Barley. Oh my word, big snap of oversteer, taps the barrier on the exit of turn 2 for good measure. And when you're fighting for the race lead, when you have a potential to really nail the strategy on his head, making small mistakes like that, because again, it does not take much more than that to end fatally for this race.
Yeah, it certainly does not. And I was just thinking again, also the pit entry and pit exit here, there's so much variable, whatever the word I'm trying to say. There's a lot of variables with the pit entry and the pit exit. So, because obviously you're having to brake, and you never use the brakes around here really, apart from slightly dabbing on them. So the brakes are cold most of the time, and the brakes are actually quite small on the Speedway package as well. So it's really difficult to slow down for the entry, and then also getting out, judging that throttle. You can't go full throttle on the apron on the inside. So there's a lot of variables, and that is why we're seeing this disparity in the pit times as well, potentially, as Simicic dives it down the inside there of Fabian Ballet to get back on the lead lap. As all big slide there from the Sancho car, as well as we're trying to see all these drivers on older tyres still pushing towards the middle part and the end part of this race.
Yeah, all of them are always on the limit. It doesn't matter how old their tyres are. You can always see them snaking around just a little bit and skating their way through the corners. But for Wisnica, this is crucial to break away from Simicic, from McDuff, and from Skovron as well. He is trying to pull away as best he can and doing a really good job of it. Cleared that lap traffic, whereas Simicic and McDuff still have to fight their way through it. It's now Simicic's turn to fight through. He's going to go to the outside of the pair of them, potentially all running very close. Gets forced out there,
wow.
Which fair enough. Is that Van Bergen potentially? I think so, and could have completely annihilated Yanni Simicic, but he's able to get back to the inside. And don't forget, this isn't for position. These are just lapped cars, and meanwhile, the more he fights them, the more breathing room that Wisnica gets.
Yeah, that was big risk from Van Bergen, considering Van Bergen's not even battling with that Sancho car. Big risk. And yes, his tyres are definitely done. He's spinning on the exit of turn 2. And unfortunately for Van Bergen, that is just a disappointing one. He's 2 laps down P32. And his tyres are definitely... Well, he's only done 12 laps, though. So I think he's just overheated them, potentially, with that. And is potentially going to be coming back in. But Simicic here, we think on slightly newer tyres. Yeah, we think he's taken 4, with Wisnica only taking 2. And he's managed to catch up already as we come towards turn 1. Here is Ballet on the exit of turn number 1 and 2. He's actually done pretty well there because, of course, his pit stop would have been a lot shorter. He would have needed a lot less fuel, and therefore would have gained a lot of time that way. On the exit, Wisnica is going to be pushed by Simicic. Can Ballet get across to block them? No, he can't. And through go the top 2.
Oh, very, very close indeed. But Fabian Barley is still in the mix. He needs to get into rhythm, and now is going to try and fight these guys. Fresher tyres and didn't have to fuel up as much in the pit stop. Really brought himself into this race, but he needs to get the momentum going, because while he was a little bit slow at the pit lane, he's lost that momentum, and in doing so has cost himself a bit of time. But if Simicic and Wisnica fight side by side like they now are, Barley is naturally going to close that gap back up, and as soon as he's hooked in that slipstream, all he's going to do is gain, and he's going to be locked in tow.
Yeah, Ballet has done a strategy blinder in this second half of the race. He managed to put himself in such a good position, and I think he has a good run actually to get this victory. But what is going to happen between Wisnica and Simicic? They've been battling the whole race so far. Simicic definitely on some more grip tyres at this moment in time, but as the stint goes on, there's still 10 laps to go. they will certainly be wearing the tyres more and more. Can Simicic use this advantage coming down the front straight away, or is he just going to try and push away and get away from the guys behind?
Might be a better option, because we saw at Gateway that latter stage of the race, there were so many cars in with the shout, and because of that there was that massive risk for disaster. So maybe Simicic wants to play it as a 1v1. He doesn't want to get Fabian Barley, Rory McDuff or Damien Scovron involved, though I say that Scovron is a little bit far back. Here's the move from McDuff in towards 3 and 4, able to get his race clutch ahead of Fabian Barley. Is he going to retain it on the exit? Also, with Simicic getting the run on Vesnitsa, it's going to be so much easier for these two to fight a 1v1 in these later stages of the race though.
Yeah, Simicic definitely pushing away, trying to make this a two-way battle. And the crazy thing is, out of everything that can happen in an oval race, if you were to write down on paper realistically who are, from what we've known so far from the Indy Pro Series and from the Stock Car Pro Series, who would be the ones to be at the front, you would put the names of Vesnitsa, Simicic, McDuff and Ballet. They certainly seem to be the speedway specialists over the course of the last couple of years of doing this autumn series for FSR, and of course changing to the stock cars now. But those 4 drivers still get themselves to the front. As we get a caution, with 8 laps to go, this is going to be a big one, as all the drivers will be stacking it up into one line again.
Oh, now we go for what is going to be a sprint, very much so, to the finish. Mirko Mancini, well, it was Lally that was tapped round. Mirko Mancini leads the way, but of course on 28-lap old tyres, probably not going to retain that at all, but could have been interesting. Jukka-Pekka Lally were unfortunately involved. Not entirely sure as to what caused the caution in of itself. It was Lally involved. He's just going to drift out wide, maybe. No, not going to happen just now, but certainly something happened.
Yeah, I think it was at the next corner, turn 1, turn 2. Number 7, I believe, is Matt Tucson, reserving there for Grand Effect. Coming into turn 1 and 2 here. Tucson going right on exit. Oh, just tags the rear, though, of the Royal Blue. Both of them go into the wall, and Lalu does well to keep that high and not collect anyone else in the process.
Yeah, that is obviously not going to be your main priority when you've just been tapped round, to be mindful of trying to keep it out of the way of everyone else. But very well done for Lally to be able to do that. Just keep it nice and high, give everyone the reaction time they need. But for Tucson, that was just a little bit clumsy. He is fine. He's going to carry on as if nothing happened pretty much. But for Jukka-Pekka Lally to keep it nice and high and then to bring it back round as soon as he was in the clear, fair enough, but still so bitter of a way to bring this race to an end. But yeah, that's somehow how the cookie crumbles. It's just unfortunate because he arguably had no fault in that incident whatsoever.
He certainly didn't. But look at this train of cars, all stacked up behind Mancini. Mancini is definitely going to have to pit because he's done 30 laps on that stint, so he's going to have to pit under this caution. So Vesnitsa will go to the front, but look at all the lapped cars as well involved in the traffic. This is going to be an interesting end to the race. We're probably going to get like a 3, 4, 5 lap dash once this all sorts itself out, and then we'll be going green flag to the end as we do try and not have cautions in the last 5 laps or so. This is definitely going to be an exciting end to the California 175.
We've got Vesnitsa, Simicic, McDuff, Barley, Carlos Martin as well is up there in P6. Damien Scovron fell down to P7, but we've got a lot of cars in the mix. Barley probably best of all of them. Mirko Mancini into the pit lane, so that does relinquish the race lead to Jan Vesnitsa, who started P5 and has really made a name for himself in this race to be able to come through. But I would definitely say our top 6 have a really good shout, maybe even further than that if something crazy happens, which don't count it out happening because it very well might.
Yes, it's going to be.
Pits are now open for lap cars. Pits are now open
it's
for
going to be
lap cars.
such a climactic finish to this race. We're just seeing so many cars in this train, so many lap cars. Are they going to be able to get the lap out? We will have to see because, of course, the laps are slowly going down, and we do not want to finish under caution. So here lap cars are being allowed to go around, and that gets them all out of the way. So Vesnitsa will be behind the safety car, and I guess we'll have to see what a race reaction do to try and get a nice finish here, because this is going to be the battle that we have all been waiting for. Vesnitsa will be leading the way. We know Simicic has slightly better tyres. Of course, fuel is basically the same between the two, but you can't discount McDuff and Ballet right behind them.
You can't at all. And thinking of a championship perspective as well, I'm just looking up and down the order. Where is Chan? Not entirely sure. I don't think he's. Where is he? Not. I've had a bit of a look, but I don't think he's anywhere meaningful in this race. Jake Danahan in P12 though. Yeah, there's Chan down in P26 versus Jake Danahan up there in P12, which is going to be a 14-point disparity between the two of them. When it comes to a championship with only one race to go after this one, that is a big points haul from Jake Danahan versus Erchan. Also thinking about someone else, I think there could maybe the likes of Damian Skovron or Jan Vesnitsa also could make some big points gain in the championship.
Yeah, let's see how this goes. Lap 84. There's going to be 3 laps to go at the end of this one. And I guess we're probably going to do one more to let them catch up. So it's probably going to be a 2-lap dash to the finish here. Everything to play for at Apple Valley. The California 175, the third round, the penultimate round of the Stock Car Pro Cup Series. Jan Vosnitsa leading the way from Jerne Simičić, Roy McDuff, Fabian Ballet and Carlos Martin. They're in the top 5. Skovron, Ivanov, Vak, Munier and Hoyer round out the top 10. It's going to be just a chaotic dash to the finish, I am sure. And you are going to want to wait for this one because it looks like it's going to be just 1 lap to go to green.
Talking about the championship, it was Fabian Ballet who was up there in P4 on 58 points. He's the closest to Erchan and Danahan and is only 9 points off Jake Danahan. So if we see how it ends now, I think Fabian Ballet is going to make some big gains and he could well make some progress in the championship, considering he's finished 13th, 9th and 8th. To have a good race here at California, to be in a championship hunt, that's not going to be too bad at all.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a big play to see how this one is going to be worked out. Although it hasn't been called that it's going green though. So it looks like we may be getting a 1 lap dash to the end, although the drivers are gridding up. They have been told to grid up. We are going for a 2-lap dash here at the Apple Valley Speedway. Jan Vosnitsa leading the way. Jerne Simičić right behind him. It's a 2-lap dash. Lap 86, lap 87.
Green.
And we go green flag racing. The Networks Grand Prix driver gets it away. And already there's been contacts a bit further back. Carlos Martin gets involved. Michi Hoyer's involved in Mercedes as well. We stay green for now as the drivers still try and work their way through. It's a 4-car pack, I should say, at the front. A little bit of bumping, a little bit of driving between these two. But Zach, that was certainly a chaotic restart.
Thankfully, though, our top 4 are still in contention. Jan Vesnitsa leads Jerne Simičić, Rory McDuff and Fabian Ballet straight to the inside. Goes Simičić, a big crash in the background. McDuff looking to the outside of Simičić through 3 and 4 as we approach the final lap of this race. A big gap back from these guys, though, as we now have Loic Moynier also in the fight. 5 cars now for the lead coming onto the final lap, but some big crashes just in behind.
Yeah, everyone's going for their places. No mercy is being taken at all. Carlos Martin dropping down. He was in such a good place, but that is just the way it goes sometimes. Jerne Simičić, though, can he get a run, or is it going to be someone from behind getting a push? Let's see. Down the back straightaway for the final time. Final lap here of the California 175. It's between Vosnitsa and Jerne Simičić. Simičić to the outside through 3 and 4. Has he got the tyres? Has he got the grip to go all the way around the outside of the Netrex Grand Prix driver? Burst eSport trying to go side by side between the two. This is going to be a photo finish. Who has got the speed on the exit of the corner? Side draft in effect. Simičić has it at this moment in time. Vosnitsa the shortest run to the line and he gets it. Simičić by 2,000th of a second misses out, unfortunately, and it is going to be Jan Vosnitsa leading the way here in California. What a finish for the California 175. McDuff gets third. Munier gets past Ballet to the line as well. Jake Danahan, an awesome recovery in 6th place. What a finish, Zach Sweeney.
My jaw was on the floor on that run to the line. That was brilliant stuff between Jan Vesnitsa and Jerne Simičić on the run to the line. 2/1000ths of a second separated them. Well, you can't get much closer than that. Of course, you can get 1/1000th of a second, but oh my word. That close decided what has been over an hour-long race. 87 laps of racing action comes down to 2/1000ths of a second. Rory McDuff up there in P3 as well. Jake Danahan from 11th or 12th, I think, on that final caution, up to P6 at the end of it, just in behind Fabian Ballet. So a good run from him there. But after all the chaos and carnage that we saw through that race, especially in that, that last couple of laps, it was a very good way to end it.
Looks like It may have been Skovron there making some contact with one of those tribute cars, trying to obviously pull out as the green flag was called, and unfortunately Vac got involved, and a little bit later Hoyer was involved as well in that one, so quite a few cars taken out in that one. Here is the view of Mitch Hoyer quite a way back actually, so quite a few people getting a run. Mitch Hoyer trying to avoid, and unfortunately, obviously on the brakes, Mazidis just couldn't avoid. Jake Denhan just about able to do so. That was very chaotic, and the drivers just trying to get every single place. And it was actually Ivanov who got the run, and I guess Skovron probably didn't see him coming, came to the right, contact was made, and multiple cars out of contention.
Nice in-sync moment there between Ivanov and Thomas Vac, though. Oh my word, out of nowhere, and then just gets completely whacked. That is the crashes we expect to see when it comes to stock car. This is the photo finish between Jane Simičić, and also in the backlog, Moynier with Rory McDuff. They were two drivers very, very close indeed. But Vesnitsa with that shorter run to the line, Simičić did have the better momentum coming off. But you can see that lower line, nothing separated them as they crossed the line to take the checkered flag. It was the most marginal things, and Jan Vesnitsa, to be fair, both of them deserved to win that, but only one of them could, and well, it was Vesnitsa that took it by the skin of his teeth.
What a battle between two very good drivers indeed, and we do actually have Vesnitsa to speak to in just a few moments' time. But let's go through the results. Top 10 here: Vesnitsa, followed by Simičić, as we've mentioned, McDuff, Munier and Ballet rounding out the top 5, Denahan, Andre Valente there in the top 8, and Hanko and Skovron rounding out the top 10 in the end. Savalev getting P11 with Riboli behind him. Riboli was spun around as well, just showing you how you got to keep in the race. Via Mancini top 14 before Morville, Mazidis and Garnier rounding up the top 17. Urchan, championship leader, big points lost for him today in 18th, Harvig in 19th, and Liam Howard for Tribute in 20th position. 21st, Steneker with Mitch Hoyer dropping down to 22nd in the end with Carlos Martin and Borja Milan. Then you've got Tomasz Vac, Ampazidis, Felitstra, Smith with Danny Van Den Eet and Paul Auguslander rounding out the top 30 with those last couple of drivers one lap down. Ivanov, Lalu and Lianos, the top 33 with Van Bergen, Tucson and Elliott finishing the race before the DNFs of Bataille, Blumsheen, Perikian and Zolt Jukes. And I'm surprised there's only 4 DNFs, such is the way that race went. But that was certainly one that came down to the final couple of laps, and we will try and get a word from Jan Vesnitsa here. Jan, what a final lap that was. The pressure was on you, but you managed to come out on top. How are you feeling after that one?
Oh, I'm very happy. I don't know how I did that, but that was probably like one of the most intense finishes I had ever, and yeah, also very important for the championship. But yeah, I was not really happy when the caution was there. I thought, everyone would bunch up and then probably overtake me at the last few laps, but yeah, I think at the restart there were some issues behind, and yeah, then I managed to somehow defend against Jerne. I still don't know how, but yeah, also fair play to him. I hope I left him enough space, but yeah, I think it was a fair battle from my side, and yeah, very good race.
Absolutely, did look like a fair battle, and something we were trying to work out at that final pit stop was whether drivers took 2 or 4 tyres. Did you only take 2 tyres on the outside on that final pit stop?
Yeah, I only took 2, and at first I thought it's maybe a good thing, because obviously then I had the gap. I think it was like 3 seconds when I left the pits. I think, 3 seconds when I left the pits to Jerne, but then obviously I had some traffic and it didn't go my way. I was not really happy, but that's racing, And yeah, then I think, even though if the left tires maybe are not that important, I think maybe they did I did 88 laps on them, so I think they were quite bad at the end, quite worn out. But yeah, I think overall it was a good strategy call.
Yeah, and coming out of turn 4 there, obviously you had the inside line. It is a bit of a turn to the start-finish line. Did you think you had him, or there's a little section there where Jerne was in the lead. Did you think that he just pipped you?
Oh, I mean, when I saw his exit out of turn 2, I think it's turn 2 to the back straight. I was sure he's gonna get me and drop me, but then I tried to cover up the inside, Yeah, somehow I left him enough space. I think on the outside, I think we didn't touch. At least I didn't feel anything, and I also think he didn't hit the wall. So yeah, and then I would say at the exit, I felt like I have the inside, so I have a shorter line to the line. So yeah, and then I thought I'm gonna make it, but yeah, that was still so close, unbelievable.
Yeah, well, congratulations for that one. Great racing there.
Thank you.
And Jerne throughout pretty much the whole race. You were following each other and pushing each other along. And yeah, that was some great entertainment for those 88 laps. So we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks for Daytona.
Thank you. Yeah, let's hope it will be another race like this.
Absolutely. And yeah, Zach Sweeney, that was such a great race. In the end, we went green flag for pretty much the majority of the race, actually, which I was a bit surprised at. But we really saw some good racing there.
We did, and it was, for the most part, clean racing. We had the 2 cautions at the start, and we thought, oh, maybe this is going to just be 5 laps caution, 5 laps caution. But then we had a good spell of, 50-odd laps of no caution. Then it came out, really spiced things up for a good 2-lap dash to the finish, and we weren't disappointed at all. 87 laps of just straight action all the way through, up and down, a variety in the pit strategies. We didn't really know whose was on the best strategy, who was going to come out on top, who took tires when, how much fuel they were using, etc., etc. All these variables, all these things to take into account that left us on the edge of our seats. Quite literally, all the way to the checkered flag with Jan Wisnitzer and Jerne Simoncic side by side. This race definitely had it all. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to Daytona.
Yes, and that pretty much rounds out for California. Daytona is next on the books. A couple of weeks' time, 13th of November for the Daytona 225. So a bit longer, 50 miles longer than this track. Super speedway as well, restricted plate racing. So definitely a lot of slipstream, a lot of pack racing you'll be seeing around there. So it's definitely very exciting things to come. And of course, the championship to be decided. Exciting race here, and we are sure we're going to get one in Daytona. But that is it for us here at California. We thank you for watching, and we wish you a very warm goodbye.